How's it going, car people? It's Lucas here, back with another video. It is time for the annual year in review, where I look back at all of the cars that I filmed this year and go through some statistics that I've come up with about them. I just want to say that the statistics for this year, 2020, are going to look very different than they have in previous years, because I filmed a total of, ready for this? 10 cars this year. Yes, 10 cars, so yeah, that is not much. But to be honest, with everything else that happened this year, I really shouldn't be too surprised about that. And you all are probably going to be asking why I'm even doing this at all when I only filmed 10 cars this year. Well, I'm doing it because I feel like it. So, let's get started anyways. Actually, before we officially get started, there's one more shout out that I want to give out. I know somebody is going to recognize the hoodie that I'm wearing. It's my friend Liam, who also has a YouTube channel under the name Car Dudes. It even says it on the back of the hoodie. Don't know how well you can see that, but nevertheless, this hoodie's really cool, and this truck right here is actually one of his vehicles, so... Oh yeah, and we can't forget about the Raptor logo on the side. That's pretty awesome. I really like this hoodie. Liam, if you're watching this, thank you so much. Now let's really get started. First statistic, average year. The average year of all 10 cars that I filmed this year was 2013.8, so rounded up 2014. The oldest car that I filmed was the 2000 Mercedes-Benz ML430, and the newest car that I filmed, actually there was a tie because there were two 2020 models that I filmed this year, the BMW 330e and the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter. Now for body design, I filmed two subcompact cars this year, the Ford Fiesta and the 2019 Mitsubishi Space Star. I filmed one compact car, which was my most recent car review, the Opel Astra, one sedan, which was a compact sedan, the BMW 330e, two MPVs, the 2004 Mitsubishi Space Star and the Volkswagen Chiron. By the way, since I filmed two Mitsubishi Space Stars this year, whenever one of them comes up in a statistic, I will always mention the year, so you know which one I'm talking about. I filmed one van this year, the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, one crossover, the BMW X1, one midsize SUV, the Mercedes-Benz ML430, and one full-size SUV, which was the Land Rover Defender. Now let's talk car brands. I filmed cars from 7 different brands this year, which, considering the fact that I only filmed 10 cars this year, that's not terrible. I filmed 2 BMWs this year, 1 Ford, 1 Land Rover, 2 Mercedes-Benz, 2 Mitsubishis, 1 Opel, and 1 Volkswagen. Now for countries of origin. There were only 4 this year, unfortunately, but like I said, I only filmed 10 cars this year. There's going to be a handful of low numbers throughout these statistics, at least in the ones I'm talking about right now. I filmed 6 German cars this year, 2 Japanese cars, 1 American car, and 1 British car. Now, about the American car, that would be the Ford Fiesta. Now, you're probably wondering why I'm counting that Ford Fiesta as an American car, even though the generation that I filmed this year is not available in the United States. As a matter of fact, the Ford Fiesta has been completely discontinued in the USA as of last year. Well, the reason why I'm counting the Fiesta as an American car is because the brand Ford is originally American. I'm just going from the brand's countries of origin, not the specific model. Next, for filming locations, I filmed cars in 2 different countries this year. 8 of the 10 cars I filmed were filmed in Germany, which is obviously where I live, and 2 of them were filmed in the Azores, which is a bunch of Portuguese islands. Now, the 2 cars that I filmed there were the 2019 Mitsubishi Space Star and the Ford Fiesta. Those were actually 2 rental cars that we had there. You're probably wondering why we had 2. Well, it was because those 2 rental cars were surprisingly cheaper than one big car. Plus, the roads in the Azores are very small and we didn't really want to deal with them with a big car. Now, you're probably wondering how we even got to the Azores in the first place. Well, we were there in summer of 2020, and back then the COVID numbers were still very low, low enough that we were able to go there. Obviously, nowadays, we will not be able to go there. In fact, we were lucky to even be able to go there in the first place. Anyways, I'm getting a little bit off topic here. Let's go ahead and move on to the next statistic, which is engine size. The car with the largest engine that I filmed this year was the Mercedes-Benz ML430, which had a 4.3-liter V8. It was a relatively big engine. The car with the smallest engine was the Opel Astra, which had a 1-liter turbocharged inline 3-cylinder. Overall, I filmed 3 cars with 3-cylinder engines this year, 6 cars with 4-cylinder engines, and 1 car with a V8 that I obviously just mentioned, the ML. Now for transmissions, I filmed 6 cars with manual transmissions this year, actual manual transmissions, no sequential manuals. In fact, I don't think I've ever filmed any vehicles with sequential manual transmissions, so we don't even need to talk about those. And yeah, the remaining 4 cars were obviously automatics, and all 4 of them were actual automatics, including the plug-in hybrid BMW 330e, which you'd think would have, you know, a CVT, but it doesn't. So that's something. It's probably the first hybrid car I've ever filmed that doesn't have a CVT. Now for the countdown lists. Starting off with horsepower, the average horsepower of all the cars that I filmed this year was 146.5. Let's get into the top 3 least powerful cars I filmed this year. Number 3 was the 2004 Mitsubishi Space Star with 85 horsepower out of its 1.3-liter inline 4-cylinder. Number 2 was the Ford Fiesta with 84 horsepower out of its 1.1-liter inline 3-cylinder. And number 1 was the 2019 Space Star with 79 horsepower out of its 1.2-liter naturally aspirated inline 3-cylinder. Now for the top 3 most powerful cars. Number 3 was the BMW X1 with 189 horsepower out of its 2-liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder. Yes, it doesn't even have 200 horsepower, but it was the 3rd most powerful car that I filmed this year, so it makes the list. Number 2 was the BMW 330e with 249 horsepower out of its also 2-liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder. It's the same one as the X1, by the way, but it also has that electric motor, so it's obviously more powerful. And the most powerful car that I filmed this year was the Mercedes-Benz ML430 with 272 horsepower out of its 4.3-liter V8. It's kind of funny, the oldest car that I filmed this year is also the most powerful. How about that? Now for torque. The average torque of all the cars that I filmed this year was 192 pound-feet. Top 3 cars with the least amount of torque. Number 3 was the 2004 Space Star with 86 pound-feet. Number 2 was the Ford Fiesta with 81. And number 1 was the 2019 Mitsubishi Space Star with 78 pound-feet of torque. And it's kind of funny because these 3 exact cars that I just mentioned also were on the list of the top 3 least powerful cars. And in this list that I just mentioned with the torque, they were in the exact same order. That's kind of funny. I don't know how that happened. Now for the top 3 torquiest cars, I'm going to say it that way. Number 3 was the Land Rover Defender with 266 pound-feet of torque. Number 2 was the ML with 288. And number 1 was the plug-in hybrid BMW 330e with 310 pound-feet of torque. No surprise right there. Now let's move into acceleration. The average 0 to 100 km/h time of all the cars that I filmed this year was 11 seconds. For the top 3 slowest 0 to 100 times, number 3 was the 2004 Space Star, which did it in 13.4 seconds. Number 2, the Ford Fiesta, which did it in 14 seconds. And you might be thinking, all cars in the exact same order as in the last 2 countdown lists. Well, no. The number 1 slowest car of all the ones that I filmed this year, the slowest 0 to 100 km/h time, was the Land Rover Defender, which did it in a pathetically slow 15.8 seconds. Also making it not only the slowest car of 2020, but also the slowest car I've ever filmed. Top 3 fastest acceleration times 0 to 100 km/h. Number 3 was the Mercedes-Benz ML430, which did it in 8.4 seconds. Number 2, the BMW X1 with 7.4 seconds. And number 1, the BMW 330e with 6.1 seconds. Now for top speeds. The average top speed of all the cars that I filmed this year was 190 kilometers an hour or 119 miles an hour. For the top 3 slowest top speeds, number 3 was the Ford Fiesta, which does 176 km/h or 110 miles an hour. Number 2, the 2004 Space Star, which does 170 km/h or 106 miles an hour. And number 1 was the Land Rover Defender, which is pathetically slow. It only does 131 km/h or 82 miles an hour. Yeah, that is extremely slow. So it is overall the slowest car I have ever filmed. But at the same time, it only has 122 horsepower, and it weighs like 4,200 pounds. It could really use some more power. And while it may be the slowest car of all the ones that I filmed this year, it will at least shine in an off-roading competition. So we'll give it that. Now for the top 3 fastest top speeds. Number 3 was the Mercedes-Benz ML430, which does 210 km/h or 131 miles an hour. Number 2, the BMW 330e, which does 225 km/h or 140 miles an hour. And number 1 is the BMW X1, which does 226 km/h. It won because it's 1 km/h faster than the 330e. Now for fuel economy. The average fuel economy of all the cars that I filmed this year was 6.6 liters per 100 kilometers or 35.6 miles per gallon. As far as the top 3 least fuel efficient cars, number 3 was the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, which averages 7.7 liters per 100 kilometers or 30.5 miles per gallon. Number 2, the Land Rover Defender, which averages 11 liters per 100 kilometers or 21.4 miles per gallon. And number 1, the Mercedes-Benz ML430, which averages 13.5 liters per 100 kilometers or 17.4 miles per gallon, which shouldn't be a surprise because it has the biggest engine. Now for the top 3 most fuel-efficient cars. Number 3 is the 2019 Mitsubishi Space Star, which averages 4.7 liters per 100 kilometers or 50 miles per gallon. For number 2, we actually have a tie between the Ford Fiesta and the Opel Astra, as they both average 4.4 liters per 100 kilometers or 53.5 miles per gallon. And now the number 1 most fuel-efficient car that I filmed this year was the BMW 330e, which supposedly, based on everything I found on the internet, averages 1.9 liters per 100 kilometers, which equates to 123.8 miles per gallon. I don't know if that's actually true, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe I need to have a 330e long-term in order to know if that's really true or not. Now for the top 3 most popular videos of 2020. Now, I feel like this is kind of an unfair statistic because some videos went up later, so like recently, and other videos have been up for several months and had a lot of time to get views, but we'll still do it anyways. Number 3 was the Ford Fiesta, which currently sits at 2,200 views. Number 2, the Land Rover Defender, currently sitting at 4,800 views. And number 1 is the BMW 330e, which currently sits at 5,500 views. Now, there's a little bit of a difference here, because the 330e went up actually on Halloween, October 31st, 2020, but the Defender video went up in February. So the BMW 330e has been climbing up in views quite a bit faster than the Defender. And those are all of the statistics that I have come up with in this video. But before I officially sign off, there's one more thing that I want to discuss with all of you, and that is this channel and all of you watching this video. I was looking at my YouTube analytics and I got a ton of information about how many views I got, subscribers, and what kinds of people are watching my videos. So I've listed up a bunch of analytics and I'm gonna go through them all with you. Now, admittedly, I am filming this on December 28th, but since this channel is not very big, I don't think all of those analytics are really going to change much between now and 2021. In fact, all of the data that I've listed up was from December 29th, 2019 up until yesterday, December 27th, 2020. So let's go through it all. Overall this year, I got 473,034 views, which is crazy considering I only have 1,500 subscribers. Speaking of subscribers, I added 887 new subscribers this year, which to me is crazy because there was a point this year, from March to June, 3 months, where I did not upload a single video. In fact, I gained 200 subscribers within that time period, within the 3 months that I didn't upload a video, so that's crazy to me. But yeah, at least there were more videos that I uploaded after that. All the rest of the car reviews, and even all the other videos that weren't car reviews, like these automobile museum tours, and also this video, but that's kind of irrelevant. Moving on, I got a total of 20,690 hours of watch time. Like, wow. The average view duration was 2 minutes and 37 seconds, which isn't terrible, but this next one surprised me big time. Within the last year, through all my videos, I have made 4.4 million impressions. What? These are some very surprising analytics, considering how small this channel is. And yes, I know most of these numbers are nothing for all of the channels that, you know, have like millions of subscribers and get thousands of views every single day. Yeah, now let me move on to all of you, my audience. You are 87.6% male. The bulk of my viewers are 25 to 34 years old with 31.6%. As far as where all of my viewers are from, 17.8% are from the USA. Next up is the UK with 9.7%. Then we have France with 4.2%. Germany with 3.7%, which is where I live. But since this is an English-speaking channel, I'm not too surprised that there's only 3.7% from Germany on this channel. Following that is Italy with 3.3%. And after that is Poland, Romania, and the Netherlands. Now, there's a bunch of other countries where I got views from, but there's no point in listing them all because they are all either at like 2-point-something% or below. But there are some countries where I got views from that surprised me. Now, there's obviously a bunch, but I've listed up 5 that surprised me the most. Those are Israel, Lebanon, Egypt, North Macedonia, and Pakistan. I did not expect to get any views from Pakistan, but I did anyways, and it's awesome. And if any of you are from any of the countries I just mentioned, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate having support from a bunch of different countries. Like, it's just so cool. And those are all of the statistics and analytics that I've come up with in this video. Now, still a bunch of you are probably thinking that this video kind of was not necessary because, you know, only 10 cars were filmed this year, but, you know, I really wanted to get some videos out, so that is one of the reasons why I made this video in the first place. And of course, I hope all of you are still doing well with this pandemic going around, which in previous months has gotten notably worse than it was in like the summer. And so, from my side, have a happy new year. Hopefully 2021 will be better than 2020, not just for me filming cars, but for all of us in general. This was really not an ideal year. So, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.